Hello, everyone. Welcome to week 2 of fashion retailing. This week we're going over chapter 1. It is an introduction chapter. In this chapter, the objectives are to define retail merchandising, describe retail store organization, understand merchandising from a corporate level and a store level, recognize the importance of mathematics as a merchandising tool in the achievement of profit. Retailing and merchandising defined. Retail store organization, relationship of merchandising to other divisions, and the importance of mathematics to buying and merchandising. Okay, so retailing. It's everything involved in obtaining goods from wholesalers and selling those goods to the final customer. Retailing can take place in a store or a non-store setting, like online, by catalog, vending machine, or home selling. Think of retailing as the grand finale of the fashion journey. It's everything that happens to get a product from the maker to the shopper's closet. Retailers are the middle heroes. They source goods from manufacturers and wholesalers, stock the racks, design the store vibe, and finally get those pieces to the people who will actually wear them. Without retailing, those cute cargos, vintage tees, and dreamy dresses would just sit in a warehouse somewhere. Now enter merchandising. Merchandising is the strategy side, the art and science of turning style into sales. It's all about figuring out what customers want before they even know they want it. Merchandisers predict trends, plan purchases, choose what to stock, and create displays or promos that make shoppers say, OMG, I need this. So basically, retailing is getting the products to the customers, and merchandising is making sure that those products actually sell at a profit. If retail is stage, merchandising is the choreography, setting the scene, picking the stars, and making sure every item shines enough to go home with someone. Merchandising, a retail function involving the planning and control concerned with the selling of goods and services to achieve a profit for the retailer. Promotional activities and in-store displays, identifying the product and product line decisions of retailers, estimating customers' needs and wants, planning purchases, buying goods, making them available when and where the customer wants them, motivating customers to buy the goods made available to them. Over here on the right side is an image from one of my favorite visual merchandisers. He designs stores, the whole thing. He designs it, creates it. His name is Ricky TV, and he created this really cool 60s inspired retro shop. Everything in the displays, it's just very visually appealing. And so I think he did his job very well here as a merchandiser, creating a display that is very, like, it makes me want to buy everything because it just looks amazing. Okay, so next, sorry, just give me a second. All right, the 5 rights of merchandising, aka how not to end up with a stockroom full of stuff nobody wants. Merchandising success really comes down to 5 simple rules. Think of them like the fashion retail formula for making money instead of markdowns. The right merchandise. Carry what your customer actually wants, not just what you personally think is cute. Know your shopper. Trendy cargos, vintage band tees, cottagecore dresses. Stock what fits their style and vibe. The right place. Put products where they make sense. The right neighborhood, the right store, even the right spot inside the shop. Impulse buys live near checkout for a reason. Right time. Timing is everything. Sweaters in July? No. Holiday sparkle in December? Yes. Deliver trends when customers are ready to buy them. Right quantities. Too little equals missed sales. Too much equals clearance rack sadness. Buy smart so you sell out, not sit on leftovers. Right price. Price has to match value and your customer's budget. Too high, they walk away. Too low, you lose profit. Find that sweet spot. If even one right is wrong, the whole plan falls apart. For example, the right jacket, the wrong season equals no sales. The right dress for the wrong price equals no sales. The right trend and the wrong customer equals no sales. All 5 have to work together like a playlist. Miss one beat and the vibe is off. Merchandising is basically matchmaking between clothes and people. The successful merchandiser understands the 5 rights and knows how to use this method to satisfy customer needs to achieve a profit for the retail organization. So like I mentioned earlier, I own a vintage clothing store, and it's one thing that I've learned. I've had the store open for almost 10 years now, and one thing that I learned that is very important is to be in the right place. I started off at a location in the Heights off of Yale Street. It was on a very busy street off Yale between 18th and 19th Street. I thought that being in the Heights was going to be like a prime location because I was close to 19th Street where all the shops are, but where I was less expensive for the location. So I learned pretty quickly that I wasn't getting much foot traffic, and it was because the street is so busy, and there was a lot of car accidents on that street because the traffic is so bad, and that particular location wasn't very walkable. I think for my business, it's important to be somewhere where people can park and walk. So at that time, I was located in a building that had there was about 5 businesses inside of the building. So that was kind of helpful to have other businesses in there with different things. There was a vintage toy store, an art, like a locally handmade art store, a seamstress, alterations, and a comic cosplay store. So we were all kind of similar. So that was cool, but the problem was still the location. The building was not in the best condition, and it was extremely expensive for the rent. I feel like the rent was way too high for what I was getting. My square footage was probably like 400 to almost 500 square feet, and I was paying a lot for the location because the owner said that being in the Heights, it's prime location, but that particular location is not, because I've seen several other businesses go in and out of this location. And I moved to Montrose because after being there in that spot for almost 2 years, I I wasn't making enough money to, I was barely making enough. Some months I didn't even make enough to cover my rent. So I was like, I need to get out of here. So I had the opportunity to move to Montrose, and in a really prime location, right by all the other vintage shops, off Westheimer. For example, like Leopard Lounge, it was in that area, and that was a great spot for me. But the problem is that it was only a temporary rental, because the owner, he doesn't let people stay there long term. So I was able to stay there for about a year, and I had amazing sales. It's just like guaranteed foot traffic, because being right there, that's like the prime spot where people go to shop for vintage. And that was like a dream for me. I was doing great. But the problem was, I knew that eventually I was going to have to move because it wasn't permanent. So luckily, I had a friend who referred me to my current location. So now I'm located in Midtown. My shop is called the Fashion Time Machine, and I'm located off Main Street. There's a parking garage, so people can park there and then they can walk to all the businesses. There's a record shop, a bar, coffee shop, a restaurant. There's several restaurants, but the one that's right next to me is Winnie's. They have New Orleans style food, and there's also a barber shop and a tattoo shop. So and then there's also the Continental Club. They have a lot of like shows and events. So it's really cool being right there, and I'm right by the light rail metro. So people take that. They take it to like the rodeo and to concerts. So like when Beyonce came, I had tons of business, because just from the people waiting on the train, they got off and they were looking for stuff to wear to the concert, especially like Western wear and silver, and also when Taylor Swift came. So that location is really great because of where I am and where I'm located and the businesses around me. So being in the right place at the right time is definitely, like, you're hearing it from me as a small business owner. You have to be in the right place at the right time. And all the other things are true as well: price, quantities, merchandise. You don't want to overbuy or underbuy. You want to make sure you have enough of the items in stock for your customers so you can make a profit. Like at rodeo time, I have all those people coming in off the metro, and I need to have bolo ties, boots, hats, Western wear, because that's what they're looking for at that time. But I don't want to overbuy, because I don't want to end up with, spending way too much money and then end up with all this leftovers. So that's important as well. So, yes, all of these very, very important. This is probably the most important thing here in this chapter. All right, moving on. Okay, next slide. Merchandising by manufacturer and wholesalers. Manufacturers, wholesalers, and retailers are concerned with sales and inventory. Sell wares to make a profit. Apply mathematical concepts to merchandising. Wholesalers sell products in bulk to other businesses at a lower price, while retailers sell individual items to end customers at a markup. Wholesalers provide a cost-effective supply chain for retailers, who then cater to the needs of individual customers. So this picture here on the left is from a warehouse where you buy things in bulk by the pound. Most of these type of warehouses are only accessible to retailers who buy on a large scale. they usually have minimums, and they sell everything cheap by the pound, in bulk. So they sell to retailers, and then retailers take the merchandise and then mark it up and sell it individually rather than in bulk most of the time. Okay, another example from my vintage shop. I used to buy at warehouses, and there are some warehouses that will sell to small businesses. It's been a really long time since I've done it, but I used to go. Some of them would have a minimum, like for example, they would say a $500 minimum or $1,000 minimum. So you have to spend at least $500 or $1,000, but you get a lot of merchandise. So, like, if you're just starting a shop and you don't have enough merchandise to fill a store, something like this would be to your advantage. So you can buy a lot of products and fill up your store, and you can, spend, let's say you spend $1,000, and then you want to usually at least double, like, in profit. You want to make back what you spent plus an extra 1,000, for example. Sometimes you might want to make triple what you spent. It's always best to spend the least and make the most money. So you have to be smart about where you buy, who you buy from. In wholesale, there's a bunch of wholesale websites, and they have like trade shows where you can meet wholesalers and manufacturers to buy from, and you can create relationships with them and usually get deals, so that, because your goal in retail is to get the best products for the least amount of cost and be able to sell it at a maximum profit. You want to find good quality products. So here's an example, just from when I first started my business in about 2016. This is an email from when I contacted this warehouse about buying wholesale. So they said, "Good to hear from you. Hope all has been well. Our rate is $10 per pound with a a 50 pound minimum, $8 per pound with a 100-pound minimum, and $6 per pound with a 300-pound minimum." So as you can see, the more you buy, the less the price per pound. So usually that's the way it works. The more you buy, the less cost per item or per pound. As for product requests, at the time I was looking for trendy stuff. So people were buying a lot of like streetwear, Tommy Hilfiger, Ralph Lauren, Adidas, Nike. They were really low on sport and street name brands because they're in high demand. Vintage band tees. I was looking for vintage band tees, but those are super hard to find, especially like the real vintage ones. And like they said, 80s band tees and earlier are getting a little harder to find. Western prairie gun sacks or that style dresses, tops, and skirts. Did you have any specs for these, like color or size? So this is just an example of a conversation between a retailer and a wholesaler. Paul Mazur's four-function organization, aka how a store actually runs behind the scenes. Paul Mazur, one of the early retail pioneers, said every successful retail business really comes down to four main jobs. If one breaks down, the whole store feels it. Think of it like running a fashion shop or boutique. Everyone fits into one of these roles. Buying, a trend predictor plus product pickers. This team decides what to sell, how much to buy, when to buy it, from which vendors. They study trends, customers, and sales data to choose the right styles. If they mess up, you get racks full of stuff no one wants. Hello, clearance bin. Selling. The customer experience team. This is everything that happens on the sales floor. Visual displays, styling help, customer service, promotions, actually closing the sale. They turn browsers into buyers. If they mess up, even great products just sit there. Operations, service functions, the behind the scenes magic, not glamorous but critical. Inventory control, stocking, shipping, receiving, cash wrap, store maintenance. They keep everything flowing smoothly. If they mess up, lost inventory, messy stores, slow checkout lines. Control, accounting, and management. The money managers, they track sales, expenses, profits, budgets, payrolls. Basically, are we actually making money? If they mess up, the store looks busy but goes broke. Easy way to explain this. Buying gets the goods, selling moves the goods. Operations support the goods, control counts the money, and all four must work together. Think of it like a band. Buying picks the songs, selling performs, operations sets up equipment, control counts ticket money. No one equals no show. Alright, the retail store organization. So here there's a lot involved. This is like a larger organization. As stores expand in size, other divisions are added. Merchandising function. The merchandising function has changed over the years. Before the 80s, retail stores were mostly independently owned department stores. Buyers usually worked in the flagship store. The flagship store is the original store location, the largest store, or the prototype store.
What is the meaning of flagship store? A flagship store is the lead store in a retail chain acting as a showcase for the brand or retailer. Its job is to draw customers into the brand over and above making sales. The focus is on experience in creating a destination store that people want to visit. What do you call the first store of a chain? A flagship store is a retailer's primary location. While many consider it to be a store's first retail store, retailers often reserve this title for the store that's the most notable. A flagship store is typically the largest store in a retailer's chain. Can you have more than one flagship? Many brands have more than one flagship store, whether that's one in each territory, or even more than one in the same city covering different prime locations or with their own unique design. 5 September 2016.
Okay. Centralized merchandising. Today's buyers typically have offices in the central headquarters. In centralized merchandising, buying functions are performed at central office or corporate headquarters, oftentimes for hundreds of stores. Expenses are reduced and profits are increased. In decentralized merchandising, buying functions are performed at stores. Buyers often have close relationships with customers, purchase for only one or two stores.
Hey guys, so today I'm going to be explaining what fashion buying is and what I exactly do as a fashion buyer. Now, a lot of people don't really know what fashion buying is whenever I mention that this is my job, or people might have heard of this in Friends because Rachel Green was a buyer at Bloomingdale's at some point.
How do you think the suit would look on an assistant buyer at Bloomingdale's?
When talking about working in fashion, people usually think of PR or design and production or maybe even sales and marketing. But buying is also an important part of the entire supply chain as well. Also, this will be a two-part series. In the next video, I'll go more in depth on how you can actually land those internships and fashion buying jobs. So please subscribe to stay updated. What exactly is fashion buying? So in general, a buyer's job is to essentially go shopping. You are using your company's budget to determine what products to buy to sell to your customers. So buyers are sort of like the middleman between the designers, products, and the actual customers themselves. Buying actually exists across multiple different industries, and it's sometimes called merchandising or procurement. Like you can be a buyer at Amazon or a grocery store or a furniture store, literally you name it. So specifically for fashion buying, we're in charge of which specific brands, which specific styles will go into each store location. So whenever you walk into a store or shop online, behind every single product that you see, behind every sneaker, purse, dress, there's a buyer behind that decided to stock up on that product and sell it in their store. So you can either be a buyer for a multi-brand retailer or one specific brand. So I personally work in a multi-brand retailer, which means we sell a bunch of different designers, and basically we shop or buy from each individual designer to put the product into our stores. And department stores fall under this category like Nordstrom and Bloomingdale's, along with e-commerce sites like Farfetch or Shopbop. For the buyers that are hired under specific designers, they're basically selecting the styles to put into each of their individual retail stores. So for example, if you go to a Gucci store in New York versus LA or Milan, you're going to see a slightly different group of product because there were buyers deciding which styles should go into which stores. At the end of the day, the buyer's main goal is to effectively make the most sales off of their product. Buyers need to actually buy items that customers are going to buy, so there's a lot of strategy and analysis involved. Buyers also need to act as a trend forecaster. You need to predict and follow trends while also knowing how to react to the quick changes in the fast-paced fashion industry. And a good buyer will have intuition on what will sell and what won't. So for example, a few years ago, we saw that really big designer flashy logos were very, very trendy. So buyers had to go out to the market and make sure that they stock up their stores with all of these logo items. And this is where it's really important to know the general public customer's taste. And you might need to set aside your own personal taste because you need to know at the end of the day, like what's gonna sell. Even though you have your own individual unique style, that doesn't mean it's gonna generate the most sales. So you have to be smart about what you exactly buy.
What does a fashion buyer's day look like?
So I would have loved to try to sneak in footage from my office or from appointments, but unfortunately, because of the current situation, everyone's working from home. But on a typical busy day, my team and I would go to market appointments. So this is a meeting between the buyer, the retailer, and the wholesaler, which is basically the designer brand manufacturing the product. So normally we would go to the brand's showroom and they would showcase all of their new product for the upcoming season. So this would include things like the items that you see on the runway show. Everything would be laid out, hanging, or sometimes they have models to try on the clothes. And from there, the buyer would basically look at all of the styles and decide what they want to buy. But these meetings are really helpful because now you can actually see the product up close, touch it, feel it with your hands. You can see the fit on the model. You know, there's just so many different elements to a product that you can't really tell from a photo. Although right now, because of COVID, everything is kind of done digitally. But yeah, the buyer would go through, select the styles, so that the designer brand knows which pieces to manufacture for them. Now this appointment is held with every single brand that we work with, and it's held like months in advance. So we kind of follow the fashion calendar where you see runway shows in the spring for the fall, and vice versa, in the fall for the spring. So we're buying like months in advance, like for some brands, like almost a year. So after the appointment, there are still some details that we need to finalize, like location, size, and quantity. So we would normally go back to the office, look at our order, see the styles that we picked from that appointment, and then decide first which styles go into which location. So we kind of personalize every single store location along with our online shop, because naturally people are going to have different buying behavior based on where they live. Now, this isn't just by style and aesthetic, but also if you think about weather. Like if it's in the middle of winter, New Yorkers are definitely going to want those black heavy outerwear versus LA, where they're still fine with lighter layers. So we have to take geography into consideration and basically cater to these different tastes and needs. Once we finalize the actual styles, from there we look at quantity, seeing how many of each style we need, and obviously we just think about, oh, what's going to be our best seller? Probably more likely the basic items like, oh, a leather jacket or these basic pair of jeans. You think about what do people frequently buy, and then you add higher quantities of those. And also you have to decide the quantity by size if applicable, seeing how many of each size that you need. Now, all of these designers are made on a budget. You can't just go buying every single item that a designer is offering. We normally have like a rough maximum amount that we can spend under each designer, so we just try to stay within that budget. Also, you just have to take into consideration that physical stores have a limited amount of space. You know, there's only so many racks and tables that you have. With online, it's a bit different. It's based on, you know, how big your warehouse is. But in this day and age, everyone, you know, normally has a budget, and you just try to stay under that. Then once we figured out all the details, then the order is complete, and we would send this to the designer brand. And then once you're done, you basically have your hands off of it for months until you actually get the shipment of product. Buyers also have other responsibilities like taking care of the pricing, the sales and promotions that are happening, certain aspects of marketing. You also have to kind of forecast your sales, determine if there will be any impact on your finances in some way, and also you'll have to figure out ways to get rid of your old inventory. These responsibilities may differ based on what company you're in, but at the core of a buying position throughout all retailers is determining what combination of products you want to sell in your store. Now, it's also really important to have strong negotiation and teamwork skills, because you need to have a really good relationship with your designer brand that you're working with, the wholesaler. It's sort of like a chain reaction, because if your store is doing successful, that means your wholesaler will be doing successful as well, because that means you are able to buy more product because people are buying it and it's doing well. So if you have a strong relationship with your wholesaler, then you can sometimes create a strategy together and figure out how you can get the best product to your customers together. And in general, there are some fun perks, like you get that employee discount on the product, or you might be able to go to a sample sale or some promotional event, whether it's at your own stores or your wholesalers. Some buyers also get to travel internationally because they get to go to showrooms and shows abroad. So I hope you're able to learn more about this, in my opinion, really interesting career path in the fashion industry. Growing up, I loved fashion, but I just didn't really know what to do with it. I feel like if I knew about this job, like growing up when I was younger, like I would be like, yes, that is my dream job. But I mean, it took me some time to do my own research and learn about the industry and figure out which way I should go. But I'm glad that I could share this with you guys. So part 2 will be coming out in a few days on how you can become a fashion buyer. I'll go more in depth on what experiences are useful, the application and interview process. So if you have any questions, feel free to add them in the comments. I'll try to respond to them.
So a buyer develops purchasing plans, sources goods, and manages assortments. Planning is very important, analyzing sales history and merchandise. Distribution, allocating merchandise to stores. All right, next up, product development. In product development, product development is actually something that it's almost like you're being a designer, but it's a little more technical. So you're doing a lot of research and identifying products that are going to sell to customers for different retailers. Like, for example, Academy Sports and Outdoors is located here in Houston. They're located in Katy, their corporate offices, and they have a product development team that develops the products for the sportswear line BCG. It's like the women's sportswear line, and they have their own lines and brands that they create for their stores. So there are places like that where you can look for work if you're interested in doing product development. I used to work at Academy doing as a global sourcing assistant, which is basically like a product development assistant, and that's where I worked. I worked for the BCG women's wear sportswear line. I was an assistant, so I helped the product developer create specs, flats. We did on the computer to create for product packages that were created, and we had to measure clothes and do lots of research on fabrics and colors and what's trending, what's gonna sell in sportswear. We would research other brands that were popular, like Nike, Adidas, Puma, see what was popular, what was selling for them, and kind of develop our own products based on that. And then we would get samples, because the person who I worked for, because I was the assistant, the product developer or global sourcing person would go travel abroad and go to like China and different countries to where or manufacturers. So she would take all of our samples, color palettes, specs, flats that we created, which is like a technical drawing to show exactly how the garment is supposed to be designed, and it includes like measurements and then all the details like fabrics, trims, etc., everything, and try to use that to communicate to the manufacturers how to create the garment. So then they would try to negotiate the best prices, etc., and then they would take all of that information and create samples first. They would send the samples to us, and then we would have to check the samples to make sure that that it was good enough for the final product. Usually there's like several samples that go back and forth before you finally say, okay, we want to take this and put it in production. And you have to make sure that you get what you want first. It's important to get samples and to test them out first, because once they go into the final production, it's the done deal, and then you're stuck with those. So you want to make sure, if you work in product development, you want to make sure you get lots of samples and go back and forth and get the best pricing, the best products, everything. So here's a video from someone who works in product development, and she will also explain to you what that is. So product development: identify product ideas for internal development, create design specifications, and sourcing for stores' private label. Like I was saying, Academy, BCG, or Macy's has the INC label.
Hi everyone, my name is Vanessa Molina and I work for the Vegan Warehouse. I am the product development and wholesale manager for the Vegan Warehouse, specifically for our brand Mercy, where we sell handbags and accessories. And I wanted to show you how a product development day goes. I wake up around 7:30 in the morning. I definitely make my coffee because I need that. I'm Colombian. I go on WeChat and see if the factory needs anything, any important messages. And this is actually a really good video if you're a designer or a product developer. This is definitely the video for you. I'll be taking you through my day as a product developer in a handbag business. Let's go. My commute is actually my favorite time. Like, I get to decompress and I get to think about my day. I commute through World Trade Center, which has a lot of fashion displays. And look, even our handbags are here. Always exciting to see. We are officially in Hoboken. It takes me about 40 to 45 minutes to get from World Trade Center to Hoboken. I normally listen to music or try and set intentions as I walk. I could take the bus, but I'd rather walk and just enjoy the weather today. All right, we made it to the office. Fun fact, the vegan warehouse is actually in a warehouse. Like, legit, a warehouse. So normally when I get to the office, I go through some emails and then I start a to-do list of everything that I have to finish today and go over the list from yesterday to see if I have to push something for today. First, I think we should talk about what product development is. Basically, for any company, a product developer has to manage the entire development process from the beginning, which is basically the designing, down to when you actually receive the bulk order into your warehouse. So we are gonna go over our sample list, making sure we have everything in, checking in on what else we're waiting for, what's outstanding, so we can plan our next purchase order and we can plan our fall launch. Yes. Samples are here. Let's do this. When receiving a sample, I look for 3 main things. First, I check that the tech pack measurements match the sample. I make sure we're happy with the overall look, color, and feel of the material and quality. And lastly, I search for any details that can be improved before placing our order. Cute. This is new, by the way, all the Mercy lining. Second iteration. There's definitely a difference in the way they painted the edges. I become Inspector Gadget over here. This key tab holder is supposed to be on this side. So basically I was brought into the team in January for, I would say, 2 main reasons. One is to improve Mercy and also to kind of reestablish who we are and what we are and look at all of the bags that we currently have and see what we can do to make them better. So for example, one of the improvements that we're going to make to every bag that we have is changing the hardware to making sure it's of better quality. And we're also branding it because we think it would look really cute with every bag. Research is actually a really big part of product development, especially when you're trying to find trends and you're trying to see what customers are gravitating towards. So today I'm going to be doing some research and I'm going to be looking at trying to gather some inspiration for either our next collection or even just for a new style. So I usually go into Instagram, I follow all the influencers you can think of. I also like to go into like really high-end and low-end designers to see what the similarities are, what the differences are, to get something more unique and that speaks to our customer, which is very important for me. And I also like to be very functional. So I look at like a lot of details, whether the pocket size or how you open a clasp. I mean, all of these things are things that I like to look at when I'm just buying a bag. Hey guys, so I am at the Path. This is actually World Trade Center. It's actually really inspiring because I get to see obviously a lot of people usually wearing bags or whatever it is, just going about their day. And here's where I come to see what's going on. What are people wearing? How much are people carrying? Is something that I always look at too. Like, should our bags get even bigger or should they become smaller if we find anything? Anyway, see one, that's nice. Anyway, I can do this all day. I never get tired of working. Little tassel, a lot of totes. So these are the little things I look for. And you might be curious, well, what is Vanessa wearing? I am wearing our Harlow in taupe. Actually, look, my laptop actually fits, which I freaking love. All right, just got home. Now I'm going to be cooking. And I'm just gonna wind down. But anyway, thanks so much for watching. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, leave them all below. And actually, I would love.
Alright, so that is product development.
Hey guys, so today
Sorry. Trying to go to the next slide.
Hi everyone.
Okay, here we go. We don't want to watch those videos again, sorry. But yeah, I think that video showed, it shows, you know, everything from the lining to the zippers, all the details that go into product development. It's really cool. I think it's a really good option if you're interested in technical design. Okay, so next, general merchandising manager creates, establishes, and interprets merchandising policies. Main functions are planning and control. Vice president reports to company president. A divisional merchandise manager monitors sales, inventories, and promotional activities of departments, maintains profit goals.
You have to have an idea. Take that idea, draw it out, pass it to a product development team. Day starts around 8:15, 8:30. I like to get into the office before the rest of my team. Always loving accessories and clothing and just retail in general. Always been a creative person. I love to craft and sew. And so moving into this retail space as a career is really just like a dream job to me. Being surrounded by the energy and how much excitement was happening in this building, I knew merchandising was it. I was sold. Hi, my name is Jackie Hudson, and I am currently the Vice President of Merchandising, Product Development, and Design at Atrium Apparel Corporation. I've been in corporate retail for almost 14 years now. It really starts with a concept. You have to have an idea. Take that idea, draw it out. Draw it out, pass it to a product development team. Find a factory that can source it. You start working with a factory to get the materials, the size, the quality, where it's coming from, how long it takes, what it's going to cost you. Once you get that done, you'll get a sample in your hands. You take a look at a sample, you approve it, sounds good, roll into production. Then they're going to secure the materials, they're going to produce the goods, they're going to put it on a boat or on a plane and get it back to your hands. Then from there, how are you going to sell it? You're going to put it in a store, you're going to throw it online, you're going to give it away. That's really the product life cycle. And then once it's out on the floor and selling, you decide, do you want to reorder it? If so, start it all back over again. As of today, I have a team of 11, 4 merchants, 3 product developers, and 3 graphic designers. I really have to oversee all 3 functions of the team and the collaboration of those teams, how they work together. So on a daily basis, I'm meeting with clients to understand what the scope of the projects are. I'm meeting with my merchant and product development team to make sure that the projects are being executed correctly. And then I'm also meeting with my graphic designers to make sure that the concepts are being translated from the clients to actual paper and then to the finished products. My typical day starts around 8:15, 8:30. I like to get into the office before the rest of my team, catching up on my emails, trying to get a couple things done before, again, everyone starts kind of rolling into the office. The team is in the office, we'll have a touch base together, kind of huddle up and say what's on the docket for today, what do we have to get done. We'll talk about client meetings that are coming up, again, deliverables and deadlines that we have. Yesterday, I actually spent then the later part of my morning visiting a client. We're talking about developing some new accessories for them. So sat down with their head of sourcing and their head merchant to understand what products they're looking for, what are their pain points, and how myself now actually on the vendor side of the business, how I can help them. I went to one more meeting at Express because we're doing mannequin shoes for them, and so we had new samples to drop off, so we dropped off the samples. They loved the quality, we went over the costing, told us a purchase order is going to be coming our way here shortly, which is our green light to say we can go ahead and buy the items. And then I came back to the office after lunch to meet with the team and have a concept meeting. We're designing into holiday right now for some of our clients. So we were reviewing what's hot in the market, what are the new ideas that they're coming up with, and then from that meeting, then my graphic designers will then take the products and actually start designing. Then by the end of the day, I'm kind of wrapping back up at my desk, checking my emails, again, seeing what new deliverables clients have for us, or reaching back out to those clients and following up on any outstanding needs that they had. I love product, always loving accessories and clothing and just retail in general. Always been a creative person. I've loved to craft and sew. And so moving into this retail space as a career is really just like a dream job to me. So I think for me, a lot of it goes back to the fact that I just love product, do different things every day. You gotta catch up or you get left behind, and I love that. I'm someone that likes to move fast. I like to have a lot of balls juggling in the air at one time, and I'm also a people person. I love the fact that I get to work with so many different teams, and the fact that as a merchant, you get to kind of be the conductor and orchestrate all of it together is another thing that I really love about my work. It is a demanding job. It can be challenging to work a little bit longer hours, to have some of that pressure and have those deliverables that every day you're having to hit these milestones to make sure the product is still moving forward at the pace that it needs to move forward to. You have to be willing to be in front of people. It's not a desk job. A little secret that you might not know about retail is that it takes about 9 months from start to finish to get product in a store. We have to come up with the designs, we have to start sourcing the product, get samples in, make revisions, then place an order. Once you place the order, then it takes about 30 to 45 days to secure the yarns, for example, that would go in this sweater. Then it takes another 30 to 45 days to actually knit the sweater. Then it takes another 30 to 45 days on a boat to sail from China to the US to the distribution center. Then it takes about another 10 days to get it from the distribution center in the United States to the retail locations. So the process of, again, what you might be wearing, knowing that it has been months and months and months of planning before it ever got to that store. I'll never forget how proud I felt the first time I saw someone wearing something that I had a hand in making. We were working on glitter mousse t-shirts, and I remember going to the mall a week after it had gotten into the store and seeing a girl walking down, the aisle wearing this shirt, and I just remember thinking, who's around me? Who can I made that shirt. I helped make that shirt. So, and that feeling doesn't go away. I mean, I still get so excited when I see people wearing things that I had a hand in, or again, just product getting delivered and getting to see it and touch it and feel it and know all the hours and days and months of work that went into getting that product here. I remember one time with my mom, again, at the mall, that I elbowed her and she said, "What's going on?" I said, "I made that." So a standard path to being a merchandiser would be a fashion merchandising major of some sort in college. I, however, had an interesting journey to merchandising. I myself was not very sure what I wanted to do coming out of high school, so I chose to go to a local art school. At the end of the day, if you can think creatively, smart, if you can move fast, and you have a good attitude, you can make it in retail. I think it's very important that you surround yourself in some really strong business classes. So fashion merchandising might teach you how to create an assortment and how to produce and source items. At the end of the day, as a merchant, you're also responsible for the numbers side of the business. So really understanding how profit and loss and margins, so whether that's a little bit of economics or some type of business class that's really helping you get to the foundation, the numbers behind what you're making, is really going to make you excel in your career in merchandising. So when I'm interviewing candidates, I really like to understand true examples of things in real life. So I can ask them, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses? That's all fine and dandy, but I would love an explanation of at what time in your career have you used those strengths to overcome an obstacle? Or what time in your career have some of those weaknesses really hurt you in progressing within your career? I actually really like to ask the interviewee what their questions are. I learn a lot from someone by what questions they're asking me. Are they connecting those dots? Are they really digging to understand more about the company, the culture, the job itself? So for me, really having the candidate come with a list of questions and being really curious about the role is something that I really look for. They're coming out of college. What activities did they do while on campus? What internships did they do throughout their years? In my mind, internships is the number one most important thing that you can do in your college career. So starting off in your career, you'd most likely come in as an assistant merchant. From there, if you're in the corporate side of it, it's a pretty vertical ladder when it comes to progression. So you go from an assistant merchant to an associate, to a merchant, to a senior merchant. At senior merchant level, you're most likely managing merchants below you and multiple categories of business. After you're a senior merchant, you become a merchandise manager, where you think about multiple seniors under you that have multiple product categories. So now all of a sudden your breadth of what you're touching is becoming much larger. After you're a merchandise manager, you become a vice president, and then the ultimate mecca in the corporate world would becoming a GMM or a general merchandise manager. So as technology and experiences and food become a bigger draw in our society, it's definitely having some effects on the apparel and accessory business that I've grown up in. So we're having to really understand from a consumer standpoint that shift, plan it appropriately, and also get ourselves into those new markets. So some of my current clients, where we had mostly focused on apparel, we're now actually getting into the tech space. We're offering Bluetooth speakers, and we're doing some more things that are, again, happening and moving at a pretty fast pace that clients want. It's not just about a t-shirt anymore. It's about a t-shirt and an iPhone case. On top of that, over the past 2 years alone in my business, we now actually have a web building service. We never used to build websites, but every client that we've had come up to us recently in the past is asking for that help. So now we're not only designing product and sourcing it and importing it, we're actually building their website to then sell the product on. So again, as that whole technology moving to e-commerce and online selling, we're now, as our company, trying to get our foot in the door with it as well and saying, hey, don't go to another marketing agency to get your website built. We can do that for you as well and really make it a full service experience with us. I'm definitely very grateful to my friend Abby Bernard. She really was the one that got me to even understand that merchandising existed in this world. And since my first day interning there, I knew I was sold. This is what I was meant to do with my career. Always just loved making things and selling things. It's just been in my nature since I've been growing up. And I've always been a big crafter. I had an idea, it just came to me, and I drew it out on a piece of paper, and right below my apartment where I was staying was a cobbler. I showed him a design I had for a belt, and I asked if he could make it, and he nodded his head. So he made me a sample, and I found a ribbon shop down the street, and I bought ribbon, and I put together this belt, and I started wearing it around campus. American students were saying, where'd you get that? I said, well, actually, I made it. I made it right here in Florence, and next thing you know, I'm selling belts all over Florence, and then I bring it back to Chicago and home for the summer, and I go into some boutiques, and they loved it and started buying it for me. A friend had mentioned to me at my junior year of college, hey, there's this job, it's called merchandising. It's kind of like what you're doing for your own business. You should try to get an internship. And I said, well, that's great, but where do I go? Try out Abercrombie & Fitch, they're right down the street. So luckily enough, I was able to get my foot in the door, knocked loud enough, got an interview, and actually got that internship. So I'll never forget my first day walking through those big doors, seeing that svelte front door desk boy greeting me with his heavily cologned Abercrombie scent, the music blasting, and I just knew this is where I needed to be. Being surrounded by the energy and how much excitement was happening in this building, I knew merchandising was it. I was sold. No one in my family had ever heard of merchandising, so this world has been something very new for all of my family. But they see how passionate I am about it, and they know me and that entrepreneur in me and the product lover and the accessory lover. My mom always called me a handbag lady. She said from the time I could walk, I had a purse on my shoulder. So I don't think it's surprising for them. I think they're very happy that I found my passion, and they're learning a lot about the industry, as we go along here. 2.5 years ago, I was working for The Limited, and the doors closed on us. They went bankrupt. It was a very, very tough time in my career. We had just gone out and hired 3 months prior a whole new design team, a whole new general merchandise manager. We were putting in hours and time and so much passion to reinventing this brand, to then 3 months later, literally being told, we're sorry, doors are shutting, we did not find a buyer. Having that hit you when you know how much work and effort you put into something was the hardest and lowest part of my career. But I knew there was a reason behind it, and so I trusted in that, and it's brought me where I'm at today. The best advice I ever received was from a former boss who told me no one will manage your career except for you. Really what she means is You need to be the owner of your own destiny. You need to manage what you want to do. Don't wait for someone to come and tell you, oh, I think you should be doing this, or I think you should go here. You have to go out and get it yourself. One real problem that continues to kind of haunt me as it's not only a nation, but, as a world, is this idea of still having these exclusivities with people and different ways of doing things. I just don't understand at this point in our evolution that we can't just all be inclusive and love one another for who they are, no matter what sexual orientation, gender, non-gender. We're all humans. We all have love. We all have feelings. And so I think for me, just really my hope is that idea of inclusivity will continue to grow as my children grow up, and that some of the things that I still encounter on a daily basis, whether again it's sexism, whatever that is, will be such a smaller memory of the past and not the future that these generations have to be focused on.
What's your favorite food?
Pizza.
What do you do in your free time?
Spend time with my family and my kids.
What's your most favorite country to visit?
I really do love Italy.
Thing that you cannot live without?
My phone.
What's your favorite book?
I really love Black Stallion.
What's your favorite show or movie?
I love This Is Us.
What makes you sad?
Pain, or seeing people in pain.
What makes you happy?
Other people being happy.
You should get into my profession if you are
passionate and love product.
You should not get into my profession if you are
quiet and like routine. So if you've been watching this and I've captured your attention, go for it. If you are passionate, if you love product, if you're a great multitasker, you can be a merchant. It's going to be an evolution. It's going to be hard. There's going to be tough days. There's going to be long days. There's going to be stress. But at the end of the day, you're going to be developing some really great things, working with some amazingly smart and passionate people, and you're going to grow so much in your career. There are so many ways you can go after being a merchant as well, from starting your own business to finding those niche jobs within merchandising. So really, again, if you're passionate, if what I've said has tugged at your heart and said, wow, I think I could do that too, just do it. I believe in you.
Okay.
You have to have an idea.
We don't want to listen to this again. Okay, so organization of the merchandising division. The merchandising team who actually makes the magic happen. Behind every great store or boutique is a buying team making smart decisions long before customers ever walk in. These are the people choosing what ends up on the racks. Let's break down the roles. Buyers, the boss of the product. Buyers are basically the decision makers and trend forecasters of the department. They follow company merchandising plans and policies, decide what to buy and how much, plan future purchases, track sales performance, make sure the department actually makes money. Think of them as part trend scout, part strategist, part business brain. If they choose well, sellouts plus profits. If they choose poorly, markdown city. Assistants, the future buyers in training. Assistants are the right-hand support system. They help track inventory and sales, work with vendors, prep purchase orders, organize samples, learn the ropes. They're basically buyers in training, the understudies. This is often the entry-level path into fashion buying careers. Great role for students to aim for after graduation. Merchandising staff bureaus, the research plus data pros. These teams provide specialized information to help buyers make smart decisions. They might handle sales reports, trend forecasting, market research, pricing analysis, inventory planning, consumer behavior data. Think of them as the numbers plus research brains behind the scenes. They answer questions like what's selling the fastest, what sizes run out first, what trends are coming next season. So the buyer decides, the assistant supports and learns, the staff bureaus provide the data, and together equals smart merchandising decisions. Like a fashion movie set, the buyer is the director, the assistant is the assistant director, the staff bureaus make the script and do the research, and everyone works together to create a hit. Buyers who work out of stores. Okay, here's, this is me, and this is my shop, the Fashion Time Machine. A sole proprietorship. That is what my business is. So the buyer is often the owner and may be responsible for the total operation of the store. Additional responsibilities may include supervision of salespeople, arrangement of merchandise. Yes, I do all of this. For a very small business, I get to be the buyer, the visual merchandiser, the manager. I look at the numbers, I buy the products, I follow the trends, I do lots of trend research. Everything. I love it. It's like my dream job. But yeah, it's not easy. Trust me. It's expensive renting a store and being responsible for all like the financial stuff. So it's awesome, but I do have to pay very close attention to the numbers. So all this information is very important. Retail merchandising by manufacturers. Many manufacturers have started their own retail divisions. The buyers are buying merchandise mainly from the company's inventory. Examples include St. John, Levi Strauss, and Guess. So they are manufacturers who have started their own retail divisions. Relationship of merchandising to other divisions. Financial control. The store's money manager. Every retail store needs someone to make sure all the buying and selling actually makes money. That's where financial control steps in, the watchdog of profits. What financial control does: supervises the budget, keeps an eye on how much money is being spent, makes sure departments don't overspend, maintains accounting records, tracks all sales, purchases, and expenses, keeps the numbers organized and accurate, supervises the credit department, manages customer accounts and store credit, makes sure money owed gets paid, keeps merchandising statistics, monitors sales trends, checks what's selling, what's not, provides data to help buyers make smart decisions. Financial control is basically the store's personal accountant and financial coach. If merchandising is the creative side, picking what's cute, and selling is the fun side, getting into hands, then the financial control is the practical side, making sure that the store doesn't go broke while doing all that. They count the dollars so your merch can shine. Human resources. Oh wait, I skipped a slide. Hold on. So operations maintains stores and provides housekeeping, bookkeeping, handles shipping and delivery, processes received merchandise, manages warehouse and workrooms, provides assets protection, loss prevention, oversees customer service. So, in like larger companies in retail, they usually have a warehouse that handles all of this. Or there's people like me again, that's me at the top. I do all of that for my small business. So I handle all of the shipping. I pack everything, I ship it, I process, receive merchandise, I manage my personal warehouse. So yeah, that's just me doing the same thing on a smaller scale. Human resources. Human resources are the people power. Every store runs on people. And human resources is the team that makes sure those people are happy, skilled, and productive. Think of them as the heart and brains behind the employees. What HR does: hires and trains employees, finds the right people for the right jobs, teaches them how to do their work well, onboards new staff so they fit the store culture, manages employee benefits, health insurance, vacation, and perks, makes sure employees feel valued, administers performance evaluations, reviews how employees are doing, provides feedback, coaching, and growth plans, handles labor relations, ensures fair treatment of staff, resolves conflicts or workplace issues, keeps everyone following rules and policies. HR hires the cast, trains the crew, makes sure everyone is happy, and keep the workplace drama-free. HR makes sure the team is talented, happy, and ready to sell like pros. Sales promotions. The store's hype squad. If merchandising picks the clothes and buyers bring them in, sales promotions make sure everyone notices and wants them. Think of this team as the cheerleaders and the storytellers of retail. What sales promotion does: communicates retail image and merchandise, shows customers what the store stands for, highlights merchandise in a way that excites shoppers, develops and oversees advertising, flyers, social media, emails, posters, anything that spreads the word about products, visual merchandising and signage, window displays, product placement on the floor, signs that draw attention, store layout and atmosphere, makes the store feel welcoming and inspiring, guides customers naturally to hot items. Public relations creates a positive image of the store, handles events, partnerships, and media attention. Sales promotion equals the store's hype squad. They make the products look irresistible, tell the store's story, get customers excited enough to buy. Sales promotion turns, "oh, that's cute," into, "I'm buying this right now." So here again, on the right side is visual merchandising in a vintage shop. This is also created by Ricky TV, who I showed earlier. He does a lot of like 60s retro looking displays, and I think it's really cool because it is visually very interesting, and it makes you it just makes the whole shopping experience so much more fun, and it makes buying more fun for customers. Importance of math to buying and merchandising. Retailers compete for consumers' business. Due to the competitive nature of retailing, merchandisers must compete effectively to realize profit goals. An understanding of buying practices and techniques is necessary in order to secure the maximum return on investment. Measuring the buyer's efficiency. Sales goals, sale per square foot, percentage change in sales from previous year, sales achieved at similar stores, inventory, stock turnover, percentage of stock shortages to sales, margin, initial markup, maintained markup, gross margin, operating profit, gross margin, return on inventory. Okay, so we will go over all of this information more in depth in the following chapters. This was kind of just an introduction. So I hope you enjoyed the lecture. Have a great week.